Can't say I'm allowed to get that again. All right, where's that? People say episode 50 of the Acme podcast. Me and Joel have been doing these episodes for 15 weeks now.
Right, hang on.
If you're wondering why I'm so excitable for like saying that, is because we just filmed that 3 times, but we had a little
Right,
bit
hang
of
on.
fun.
To put it into perspective, we'll do a quick whirlwind recap of our past hour trying to film this podcast. Started out, we did have a clue how to set it up on iPhone, so managed to do all the thing and decided, you know what, we'll just film it, got a mic, done the lot. Right, this is, we're speaking at this like, hello people, but most awkward 15 minutes of our life.
It was terrible. It was awful. Like, we ran over the same points as well. We were trying to chat the actual topic, and we just ran over the same shit like 3 times. It was just it was terrible. Like, there's a clip of it on our Instagram.
Yeah. Then
but obviously
from
you're not
there,
going to see this.
we decided, you know what, let's make it a bit more authentic. So we come back to the old laptop doing Zoom call, and we just carried on being awkward. Dan made some outrageous comments that we can't actually put on air, and now we're here. So what's happening, people? Welcome to episode 15 of the Archive Podcast.
Episode 15. That's 15 weeks we've been doing these, bro.
That is like
almost half a year.
Almost a half a year. And isn't it mad that would we have started this podcast if we weren't in lockdown?
See, I don't know. We've chatted about starting a podcast before. And I've wanted to start a podcast for a long time. So, potentially. But would we have? Probably not.
No, it's like that thing, innit? Like, when the time comes, you just do it. And would we have probably just done it if we had normal life, like, coming in? So we'd be like, oh, I got a client then.
Tough times never less.
Only
tough people less.
All right.
But yeah. Episode 15. That's the intro.
Yeah.
What's happening, bro? How's your day been?
Well, apart from the weirdness, I did have... I tell you what, my day was a little bit weird today. So those who don't know, I PT out at Planet Fitness Tredegar, and being there, I'm comfortable. You know, it's been a year, fit in, got my routine, but Planet Fitness has another site, Aberbargoed, and I was like, oh.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
I know. And I was like, oh, have I ever thought about working there? No, we're allowed to. It's dual access. So I was like, Then someone messaged me and was like, can you PT out the Aberbargoed thing? And I was like, I can. So I went down there, and totally different environment threw me off. Not like massively forgot everything, but I was like walking in. She was like,
it's a completely different vibe down there, isn't it?
Yeah, she was like, oh, where do you want me to meet you? And I was like, I don't know yet. I'll let you know when I get there. Because they don't have a reception like we do in Planet. So normally, first session, it'll be like, oh, we'll have a sit down, have a chat, run through the questionnaire, things that they've answered, see where they want to get out the session. But it was like, I don't know where we're going to sit. I don't know where we're going to go. So rocked up.
Let's go sit on the chest press or something.
So I did sit on one of the benches and a med ball and had the chat. Went really good session, but it was like, and then you start speaking to people and it's like eyes on you. And they're like, who's the new guy? And I was like,
yeah. It is a completely different vibe down there. It's like a totally different gym. Like Planet Fitness Tredegar has got a bit of a corporate gym vibe.
Yeah.
Like a pure gym vibe. Kind of, but better equipment.
I'm going 1 year in, 1 year off, so I can actually hear myself.
1 year in, 1 year off.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever.
Hang on. So how many gyms have you PT'd at, actually? Because
Planet Fitness would be my 3rd.
Fair. And how do you find the transition from gym to gym? Because obviously, where do you work first? Where was your first job?
Well, I'm not going to name the gym because I fucking hated it there.
Okay.
People who know me will know where I worked. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of a weird vibe. Like, I wasn't really... My PT, so like I'm a completely different coach than I am. I'm now a completely different coach from what I was back then. I wasn't as confident. I didn't have that sort of like, I had the knowledge, that kind of thing. And, it was the sort of like area that I worked in. Like, I didn't vibe with the people. Like, they just didn't get, like, I was a class instructor and I ran like strength and conditioning sessions, and the way the gym, they wanted me to run the classes, it just wasn't possible in that facility. Yeah, it was really bad. So basically we parted ways. They basically said, look, you're just not fit for this gym. And I was like, yeah, I really ain't. The second gym I worked at in Pro Fitness in Cardiff, like, sick gym, sick staff. Didn't get really much coaching I was in down there as I did in Planet Fitness Rodiga, but I've picked up a few online clients, a lot of online interest from down there, for Cardiff, big place and all that. But yeah, Planet Fitness is really where my coaching career kicked off. But yeah, like the first gym I worked at, it just really wasn't a vibe. It really wasn't it, Chief.
Yeah. I find like sometimes though that gyms, you tend to fit a gym structure, and I think Planet Fitness, for us as strength and conditioning coaches, I feel like if they won the big group classes, you'd need a bit more rack there as well, because obviously when you're running a big, say, 12 to 14 person strength class, you ideally want maybe 2 to a rack, 1 in, 1 out, during the rest period. But in Planet, they've just got the rig, haven't they, which is like 6 people at one time. So it's like maximum 12, and it runs quite nice, but then it could be a little bit better. But sometimes like some gyms just do not fit your structure. Like, I don't think I could ever see myself working in like a pure gym that's like commercial,
Yeah. The gym I started working at was like initially a bodybuilding gym. And then they kind of broke into like the CrossFit sort of like functional training realm and opened a gym opposite their other gym. And it was such a tiny facility as well. Like, they wanted like 30 people per class, and there just wasn't enough room to run a decent session in there.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
Have you done any like internships then, like work placement wise, or?
No, I just started working. Like, to be honest, there was coaching opportunities that I could have taken, but I wasn't interested. I start my degree, I wanted to be a PT. But yeah.
See, I was the opposite when I started. I was like, you know what, want to go into pro sport, like I mega like it.
Initially, yeah, like I wasn't like that, and it kind of it switched for me.
See,
later on in my degree, I wanted to work with athletes. I had a few, because I was strength conditioning, I was labelled under the S&C guy in my first gym. I had a couple of people interested. There was a good few guys that I really gelled with in that first gym, and they kind of like broke my interest in MMA, that kind of thing. So that's why I started working with combat athletes, and I really got immersed in that sort of MMA, combat sport, individual sport side of it. Whereas like I've got absolutely zero interest in working with team sport. Absolutely zero interest, just because you can kind of see the rewards from what you're doing as a coach, rather than just like overseeing a massive group of people. You could really hone in your coaching skill in that kind of environment, but I feel like that's not what I'm in it for. Like, I want to be a good coach, but I want to see the impact I'm having on that particular person as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think where I went in with the Dragons as like academy / under 18s S&C coach, I feel like you do notice a lot out of younger athletes. They develop a lot quicker, obviously, because they're going through that maturation phase and whatever, and you get that reward. Like, you see people come in, they move in better, they're moving stronger. But when you are with a, say, professional rugby team, the majority of the time, everyone moves to a certain competency because they've been through the setup from an early age. And if they haven't, they usually move well anyway. And then you don't get as much input with the pro team. You literally just write a little program on the board, make sure that you're going through the covering what they need to cover, and then is like from there you're just an overseer, not a coach, I feel. And I don't know, because I like watching people progress and develop, and that's why I kind of fell in love with the whole PT side of things.
It's like, Yeah, it's like building somebody from the ground up. So working with like youngsters, you get to do that.
Mm.
I actually worked with a rugby team for a brief period, a local rugby team, Abbotsbury, and literally just watching them and teaching them was really rewarding. Whereas if you're in an environment where you've got pro athletes in there, they're really competent. A lot of them study S&C and sport and exercise science anyway. A lot of them are kind of like, you are just a glorified rep counter in that sort of environment. Obviously, you've got that sort of like underpinning knowledge to kind of make changes like, auto regulation, that kind of thing, fit in exercises, regressing, progressing, that kind of thing. But to be honest, it's boring.
Yeah, you
And I
normally
don't mean
just
that.
like
I don't mean that with any disrespect. People, if you work in team sport, I don't want to. That's your niche. That's your gig. I'm not. It's just not to my. It's not something I'm interested in.
yeah, and I think that's why I kind of like the programming side of things, and I like the, there's nothing better than a very nice looking Excel spreadsheet. I satisfying, you
Yeah,
know
I
what I mean?
get it is satisfying, but again,
What's
it's
your
that.
ideal first date? Taking out a lovely Excel spreadsheet for a nice wine and dine. But
Right, right, we all realize how weird Joel is now
yeah,
by this
but
point.
when you get that like clean looking Excel spreadsheet after the first session, it's gone to shit anyway.
Yeah, it's because it's like,
And is that on the fly coaching? And when you're doing that with like pros, there's not a lot of that on the fly decision making, because you kind of know everyone can move to a certain standard. If they've got the regressions and progressions already in place, which they should have, because some people might not
yeah,
back squat, some people might hex bar instead, they're all accounted for on the program. And at the end of the day, you're just the brains behind the operation. And it's like still a vital role. And like without that, you're probably going to go to pieces as a team if you haven't got a good S&C,
yeah,
like, what's the word? S&C,
practitioner.
no, not practitioner. Doing like just the S&C side of things. If you haven't got that in place, the team can quite quickly go to pot. Not to like big ourselves up, but when you're on the actual on the floor coaching, that's where I get a lot of my reward from. And in pro sports, you're just there to usually cue or deal with like certain individuals that might be struggling with one thing. But when you
It's just
come in,
not. Yeah, it's just not. It's not as immersive.
no, when you're in it, like there's nothing better than seeing someone come in and you're like, right, what's your training history? And they're like, none.
Mm.
And at that point, you kind of get excited, because that's what you get taught about in uni, is how to get someone from scratch to where you want them to be, the steps you need to take. And you do a lot of learning as a coach when you've got people that are coming in. Everyone has different problems, and I think we chatted it with Chris before on episode 6, I think that was. But it's that you've got to make regressions, progressions based on that, and then you can kind of see people come in. And that's why I enjoy coaching weightlifting so much, because anyone who's a good weightlifter, even then, you still have a lot of problems creep into your lifts that
Yeah, could be kind of queued out. Yeah,
queued out, and then you can put certain exercises in to make sure that they transfer over to where you want to go. And in team sports, I think you just lose a bit of that, but that's why I wanted to go into the whole PT route. That's why I love all you people that,
yeah,
come in and work with me. And yeah, it has its pros and cons. Like the cons are then when you're working with athletes, they kind of know what they need to do to get better
yeah.
outside of the gym environment. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges, I feel like, coming in now especially, is that whole trying to balance everyday life with your health and fitness.
Yeah, it's like working with a sport. It's like working with an athlete. It's like juggling. You've got the sort of like performance paradigm, which is like, or the scheme or whatever, which is like tactical and technical, um, physical, that kind of thing, psychological, balancing all those. It's the same. It's like balancing work life, daily life, life stress, kids,
But
home life,
then,
bills, that kind of thing.
but then, with that stress, I was referring to more of the whole sacrifices you got to make, because this is like what we want to chat about on the podcast today, was like the sacrifices that go into health and fitness. And as an athlete, you know that you've got to eat right. You're drilled in from an early age, if you're in academy setups, that nutrition's key, sleep is key, recovery is key. And
Yeah, you got that behavioural sort of
Yeah, you've already
imprint.
established those good behaviors that carry over. And even though you might see, like we chatted about with Chanel, like Rich Froning comes in, day of the CrossFit Games, like smashing pizza. If you look at his lifestyle as a whole, I'd probably say like 90 to 95% of it is absolutely on point. And then because he's that elite 1%, top tier 0.01% of athlete, you can get away with getting the other stuff in. But trying to find that balance when you're, just gen pop doing this to make yourself feel better, to look better at the beach. Everyone wants to look better with their top off, and that's the main thing. You come in as a PT and C is like, I want to look good at the beach. I want to do this, want to do that, and trying to balance then the fact of you're going to have to make some sacrifice alongside that journey, and with Instagram skewing the perception of what a good body is, and you'll see like on social media like the amount of rig that is on show by bloke and the amount of ab, bum, hip to waist ratio that females have is ridiculous, and that's like constantly put on Instagram, and then people idolize that and they're like, that's where I want to get to, and then they don't realize the amount of sacrifice that goes into looking like that. Because I know you're on a cut at the minute, and
Yeah.
already the amount of sacrifices you've got to just look better for what was going to be a holiday, but
Yeah, like
COVID.
I've made sacrifices. I've chosen the way I've done it. Like you can do it. You can do what I'm doing with making less sacrifices, obviously. However, there are still some like sacrifices that you must make, like foods, that kind of thing. Foods you enjoy. Sometimes they just don't fit the bill. Sometimes that doesn't fit your goal, but you've just got to sacrifice and sack it off. Like to streamline the process of my cut, I've stopped going out for food. I don't have off-plan meals. I eat the same shit every day. Could I get away with just eating different foods every day? Yeah, but again, that's like an extra stress for me that I've got to think about. So ultimately, is like whatever's best for you, because like I could easily get as lean as what I am and what I will be from being flexible with my diet and tracking everything and being really like analytical with my tracking and trying to fit like if I want a bar of chocolate there, fitting that in. Yeah, I could get lean like that. However, look how much external stress I'd have to do to sort of get the same effects, but with less sacrifice. But if I have a little bit more sacrifice, it just streamlines the process way better.
Yeah, and like on that point though, where you said you could have got as lean with eating chocolate. I know you spoke to me and you've been like, to be honest, the reason why I want to do this is to just prove to myself I can, because a lot of the time people say, oh, I could get in shape. Like I've been guilty of it. Like, oh, I could get in shape, this and that. And then I'm like, but I've got to stay around this body comp for rugby, this and that. And at the end of the day, do I not want to make those sacrifices? Is the reward not big enough for me? Probably at the end of the day, if I wanted to get in shape, I'd have to make a lot of sacrifices. Like you said, with the streamlining of the process, where you're like, oh, I'm going to take away this chocolate bar, just be rigid with my meals. Do you think, though, without that level of accountability and having to make those decisions, you could quite easily fall into the trap of, oh,
Making excuses.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and like, how much do you think that comes into play in something like this, where your goal is ideally you want to get in shape and you've got to sacrifice calories?
Ultimately, I think if you've got a good mindset and you've got that vision and you create those sort of like personal standards, I'm reading a book by Mark Coles, which is obviously a personal training book. It's a fitness-based book, but like he says, like basically where you want to be in your life, you create your vision, you create your own personal standards. So if I got a goal in my head, that's my vision, and I'm putting steps in place to achieve that. I've got to create my own personal standards. Like me making excuses, saying like, "Oh, I ate one bite of that chocolate," I can make the rest fit and like fall into that trap. It doesn't fit my vision. So my personal standards then have to reflect my vision. So the things like ultimately it's just how bad you want it. Because if you want that bad enough, you're not gonna sort of like mitigate your results by making excuses each time, because you're just putting it off by that point.
Yeah, and like that's the one thing for me is do I really want to go to the extreme like length of, cutting my calories for a prolonged period of time to get in shape, sacrifice like what would happen to the performance benefits and things? Because obviously I want to be really strong. That's my goal. And cutting body mass would affect my training because the calories would be down. Because if I had to get in shape, we all know I'm not close to lean, but I'd have to do a longer cut than most people.
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Oh,
yeah.
But those sacrifices then that creep in, and it's the personal standards thing that you set yourself. And like Grant is a perfect example for this, where we're going to go on the podcast at some point. And
I really want to get Grant on the podcast. I think he's like me, like we all have a bit of banter about like, Mr. The Paleo King and CrossFit, whatever, and things like that. But he's actually got quite a lot of good insight.
Yeah, and he is someone that upholds like the biggest standards. So if you've like ever set foot in Planet Fitness Gym, 90% of the time he's responsible for how clean it is. He'll come out, he'll polish all the worktops, he'll polish all behind the desk, he will keep everything in straight lines. When I was doing the tour up at Planet Fitness, every morning for about 4 weeks, the Grant Tour. Do you like the Grand Tour? But led by one man only, Grant Hughes. And we go along the gym, and he'd like start in, you walk in, you go up the one corner, check all the machines in a straight line, make sure everything. If there's a bottle top on the floor about 50 meters away, Grant's radar start pinging, like UAV inbound, pump over there.
It's like the thing. Nothing I've read so far in this book that I'm reading isn't anything that Grant hasn't sort of conveyed to me before.
Yeah, and
like the guy, like you might think, right, it might be just like, does that really make a difference? But the guy has a vision, and his personal standards do not change. He does not sacrifice personal standards for the sake of like you said, like a little bottle top. Those are his personal standards. If that was his gym, that bottle top, it doesn't fit with the vision of it being like completely pristine premier facility. And he just sticks there, and he's like the most sort of, it could be seen as a little bit sort of like, psychotic, over analytical, but at the same time, like he just does not deviate from his personal standards.
Yeah, and I think then that's where it comes into, that, if I wanted to fit a bar of chocolate in. So as you're there, if you wanted to fit that bar of chocolate in, and, it can't really fit, and you're letting your personal standards slip, how far does that go then? If, for example, if you let that chocolate bar come in and you've gone over your macro slightly, but you've not really tracked it, you've just been like half-assed, at what point then does that stop?
Yeah, it's like you're not behaving, that your behavior doesn't reflect your vision of where you want to go. So ultimately you're just gonna sidetrack yourself.
Yeah, for me, like personally with the strength training side of things, people look at my training and they're like, oh, why are you doing this super movement and stuff? Like I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket and being like, I want to just enjoy training, enjoy the health and fitness thing at the minute. I've got no big goals in mind for me. I did have a few strength things that I wanted to get done, but with the amount of injuries that have crept in at the minute to my training. So those who don't know, I tore my ankle ligament, rehabbed it for a year, tore my pec like 2 months later, rehabbed that for 8 months, then start lockdown, tore my hamstring. And they're probably things that I was doing because I was pushing so hard on certain goals. So like I was like pushing for like 300 squat, 300 deadlift. I'm currently pushing for big bench, but those numbers, I realized the amount of like sacrifice I have to make. So if I wanted to, I was coming in the end of uni, if I wanted to stop going out, stop drinking, stop eating out, all this stuff, that was going to be optimal for me. And I could get away with it with the strength side of things. But then it gets to a point where I couldn't, go off program with my training if I wanted to be dedicated to those goals 100% and set myself a vision for it. But I took a step back then, realized that they're probably not my biggest pursuits right now. And my biggest thing is I want to try and grow my business and whatever. And that's why my training and nutrition might slip a little bit, is because I'm focusing on something else. But at the same time, I haven't missed like a check-in. I haven't missed anything. I'm trying to provide the best service for my clients. If that means sacrificing something else for myself personally. So my training's gone down the shitter a little bit when it comes to it. But I'm willing to make that sacrifice. And a lot of people don't realize that, you know, when they are changing their life around, that they are going to have to make these sacrifices. And they're like, oh, so am I all right to go out and drink? And I'm like, yeah, if that's what you want to do,
It
but you've got to
depends.
realize that you're going to have a massive
Yeah.
trade-off and you're never going to be in the best position possible.
Like it depends like how much does that goal weigh on you? How badly do you want that goal? And it's not even fitness specific, it's goal specific. If you really want something, you are going to have to make sacrifices in other areas to maximize you achieving that goal. Like if I want the most refined expert, like, flawless personal training system business, I'm going to have to put all of my energy and time into that. My training is just going to have to sit in the back burner. Do I want that? No, but I'll make the sacrifice. If I want to be, world record holder, 62 kilo powerlifter, will I be able to like spend 12 hours on the gym floor PTing? No, because I'm never going to achieve that one goal.
Yeah, and we chat about a lot about it in strength and bodybuilding, about maintenance volumes and minimum effective volumes. I feel like that applies to like business. I feel like that applies everywhere though.
Well,
So
it's like the 10,000 hours rule, isn't it? You have to spend so much hours to become like sort of like quote unquote an expert in that area. Is it expert or like, I don't know what
master, I think they call it.
master to master one thing? Well, it's like, you spend so many hours in the gym, you're always going to get better to an extent, and obviously contextual to like, what you're doing. Well, if 3 sets works, but 5 sec, if, for example, if 3 sets works to get you stronger, but 5 sets is optimal, and you do 3 sets, you're still working towards that goal. It's just going to take you a little bit longer.
Yeah,
But it's
and
like,
could you use that time elsewhere then, I feel, to
yeah,
better
it's
something
like,
else?
it's exactly. So like if 2 hours of on the laptop of doing check-ins is going to maximize my business, but if I spend 5 hours doing check-ins, it's going to make my business more efficient. It's going to really skyrocket my business, and that's optimal. Should I really, you understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, and
I can still spend the 2 hours and get there, but the efficiency would be less, and it'll just take me a little bit longer.
yeah, there's that growth versus maintenance thing. And like if you've got a couple of clients, it's quite easy to maintain that standard. You know what I mean? Is you don't have to put, you have got less check-ins to do. You can check up on people more frequently. You can provide a better service to those clients because there's less people to look after. But if you want to carry on providing that top quality service to more and more clients, you've got to be more and more dialed in. Got to spend more hours, got to spend more time refining the process and, you know,
Yeah, for
doing the
sure.
things you need to.
Hmm.
And no, that's why I wanted to like touch base with you. How have you found, because obviously I've given you shit for not coming out and stuff. And,
Mm.
you know, his lad banter, like we've gone out for a pint a couple of times. Dan's like, I'm not coming. And he's like, I was like, oh, you could come, like just sit, have a Diet Coke, whatever. And he's like, but that temptation, I'd rather just not put myself in that position. So how have you felt going on this cut? And have you really felt like you've missed out on too much?
I mean, like obviously, if your mates are any mates, if they're real mates, they're not gonna sort of like penalize you too hard, and they're just gonna leave you out of plans in the future. But like, there'll always be a time where I can go for a pint with Joel and the boys. It just doesn't fit with my goal at the moment, so I'm gonna say no.
Mm.
Is it? It does it suck when it happens? Yes, shit. I'd love to go for a pint with Joel and the boys, but would I have felt worse going for that pint and then me being set back? Yeah, man. Like it's just so bad. Like my off-plan meal yesterday and those 2 pints today, like it didn't, like, even though it was on plan and it was okay, it was all good, like it was all organized, it was like, yeah, all that. It still felt like I was on a bit of a discourse.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, until I've got that, like, this is the first time I've ever had this sort of like tunnel vision focus on to getting somewhere. Um, like the thing is, like, I'm sacrificing like so many things, even though my goal isn't sort of like completely like a massive, it doesn't make or break my life, like, a bodybuilding show or like, I haven't got anything weighing on it. I just want to get in shape for a holiday. But like that psychological sort of like, if I don't get there, I'm like literally a piece of shit. Like I'm so wet. Like you should have just worked for that. Whereas, you know, could I be flexible, a bit more flexible for this goal? Yeah, for sure. But to me, the areas that I'm sacrificing and making the process a lot easier for me at the same time. Like I eat the same meals, you know, every day, the same order, the same foods, exactly the same. I've lived off whey protein, bagels, eggs, and chicken, and rice and wraps for the past 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Every day, not a
Yeah, and
deviation. Every single day, the same foods.
I think
Could
you
I?
kind
Could
of
I? Yeah, sorry. Could I have fitted different foods in? Could I have rotated foods differently? Yeah, but I just am going to think about that now. I eat the same shit. I know I'm having this much chicken, this much of that. It's easy. I get it done. Like at this point, the rate of loss is just effortless because I am going to think about anything else.
yeah, because I think you have so much willpower to say no to things, and it's that stress bank. And if you take away the stress from other areas, you can say no to going for, that pint of things. And yeah, if you have got mates and they're not supportive towards your goals, like even though we banter Dan, like we'd be like, "Oh, come on, Dan, bit wet today," this and that. We know he's doing the things he needs to do to get better, and we're not going to like throw him off course. But I think that comes down to who you surround yourself with as well.
Absolutely,
Be,
yeah.
yeah, being immersed in health and fitness. For example, I spend say 6 hours a day coaching in the gym. I'll spend 2-3 hours training. I'll lull about for an hour in the gym. A lot of my time is spent in that gym and focused on health and fitness. And I know the ins and outs of what you need to do to make sure you get better, the sacrifice you have to make. So if you're not surrounding yourself with people that understand the level of sacrifice that you need to go through, I think you need to bin them, to be honest, if that's a massive part of your life. For example, say
Yeah.
you're someone who only trains 8 weeks a year to go on all day. Like, yeah, don't bin your mates off. But if you're someone who's passionate about health and fitness, I've got big aspirations of, say, like competing in strength, power, bodybuilding, anything of those events, like you're going to need to surround yourself with the right people to make sure you are getting better.
Yeah, or just deload away from the people that just don't understand the process behind your goal. Like I've got mates. Obviously, this is no disrespect to my other friends, but my other mates are not immersed in fitness. They completely don't understand my goal and why I'm putting myself through this. They're like, "Oh, you don't need to do that. You look fine the way you are," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's really annoying. Leave me alone." Do you get me? Like, go away. But no. But the thing is, right? They'd be like, oh, do you want to do something? Let's socialize or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, but you're going to go then and sit in Weatherspoons and, or go to McDonald's or, sit around just doing, consuming like shit, and that doesn't coincide with my goal. That doesn't mean I don't want to be friends with that person. It just means like, I can't really put myself around that at the moment. It's gonna derail me. It's gonna just be shit. I'm gonna have a miserable time and I'm just gonna be a dick. So at that point, you just got to kind of go like, yeah, I'm going to sort of like dissociate for a while, have a deload there. I'll stay in touch on what have you. But it's because of this reason. And if they understand that and understand that you've got a goal, they might not understand the goal, but they understand you've got a goal. Yeah, that's great. If your friends don't understand your goal and they are sort of like dickheads to you, like, just grow up, like you put in that before us and whatever, like just fuck them off. Like just get them
Yeah,
in the bin.
yeah, and
And I think
that,
all of my friends understand my goal, but they just don't understand. They understand I'm shooting for a goal, but they don't understand the goal. So they don't understand kind of why I'm doing the things I do and that kind of thing, which is
yeah,
why
but then from there, you made a good point of like deload from your friends for a little bit. And even if you're not immersed in health and fitness, everyone should be aspiring to do something, whether that's become, successful in business, whether that's become really good graphic designer, anything like that. You're going to have to spend and devote time to it. Just because you don't understand the process that someone's going through to get their goal, you understand that if this was towards your goal, you've got to have a bit of empathy and put the shoe on the other foot and be like, if you're a tattoo artist, you're going to have to spend a lot of time sketching and getting good at that. And if your mate who weren't interested in that was like, well, come on, donkey, come out. And you're like, no, I want to make sure that I am getting back towards this goal. Like, you've just got to have empathy towards a goal and time devotion to it,
Yeah.
rather than just the outcome. So Dan being in shape, people might look at that and think, oh, you know what I mean? Not asked. But they don't understand how much that means to Dan, because every day, oh, come take a photo of me, bro. Come take a photo of me, bro. And he's there and he's like, oh, come take a photo. And, you know, like seeing the satisfaction and like reward that he gets from that. That's the main thing, rather than the outcome itself, is how happy he's making himself and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep
I
that.
don't know. Or we'll go
No,
back.
yeah.
Go back awkward to casting couch vibes again. Oh, hello.
Yeah. Can you imagine if that was in here? We'd be like,
Probably end up kissing them, bro. Made eye contact, you know.
no, not a chance.
But yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to. Understand the goal. You don't need to understand the process, but if you understand someone shooting for a goal, then you'll understand that there's going to be sacrifice no matter what that goal is, and you've just got to empathize with that, whether that be they not coming out for food, or whether that's like, you know, they're doing something completely different to what you want to be doing. They're doing that to get better for their own personal reasons, not to sabotage you or make you feel like shit.
Yeah, it's like if I don't.
Yeah, because
like,
my analogy was, I was like, oh, I don't really know.
I've got good people around me, so like nobody is really kind of inhibiting me achieving my goal. But like if you've got those like mates who just don't care that you've got that goal, and they're really pushy and like, oh, just grow up, just come out, just do this, spend this money, you know, eat this food. Like they don't care enough about you to sort of like prioritize your goal for you. Like they are not willing to make that sacrifice of, you know, there's that level of mutual sacrifice that needs to be there, rather than like putting that whole weight on you making the sacrifice. If you've got friends that understand your goal, that's the most important thing. They're not really gonna, because I can speak for any good mate. Like like the thing is, Joel is doing a hypertrophy block with me, or hypertrophy block with me now. I'd love to train with Joel every session hypertrophy, but his next block is a strength block. My hypertrophy block is going to continue. I'm not going to then go, oh, bro, like fucking grow up. Let's just train fucking arms, chest, fuck rest, fuck your strength, fuck this. Come and train with me. Like I'm not going to be that dickhead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what it is, isn't it? You've got to understand, they're not doing it to like spite you, whatever. Like, if you didn't want to go out for food, you're not doing it to be like, you're on your own now, chief. You're doing it because you're getting better, and you're not doing it. You're doing it for selfish reasons, because everyone's selfish towards their goal. And if you're not, you don't really want it enough. But some people, I find, just make things awkward for the sake of it.
Yeah, it's like people who completely cut out all the foods they like.
Yeah, and I think that's where people go wrong.
It's like extremes. It's like extremes of everything. Anything is bad.
Yeah.
Where you got to find a middle ground where there's balance. Like I'm still eating things that I like. It's just I eat the same thing every day.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that point.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like people are over, so like they put too much weight on like things that don't matter, and they continue to do that by putting and they just end up putting excess stress on themselves. That's a like nice roundup, I think.
Fair. Find that balance. Don't be a knob. The scales are going to tip if you are heavily weighing on your goal.
If your mates are dickheads, fuck them off. If they're not, kiss them on the mouth.
Yeah,
yeah, that's episode 15.
Yeah, short and sweet, I think. You'll be happy to know that we've got a couple of guests in the pipeline that are looking to come on. Another female perspective is being lined up because, as you know, we're blokes. Dan does way less than
everyone. Everyone. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Let's get it clear. I don't, but yeah. Everyone who watches this, everyone message Mike Israel and say go on the Archive podcast.
Yeah, just message him. But on a serious note, if you have got anyone that you'd like us to try and get on and share a podcast with, drop in the comments. Like, we always put an Instagram post out when the post is live. We're going to try and up our Instagram game. Does require a lot of time, consistency, and effort, but it's something that we can try and devote now that we're getting back into a routine again with work. So we're going to be a bit more active on the Instagram, posting clips. But if you do want us to bring anyone on to the show as a guest, leave it in the comments, either on the YouTube or the Instagram, or just send us a message. And yeah, we'll try and get them on. But I think that has been episode 15. So thanks for watching, people. And we shall catch you next week at the same time for episode 16.